All right, everyone, thank you for watching Asked and Answered. And if you like what you see, if you like this content, if you like all the series, please smash that like button, click subscribe. One of the most critical cases that you've worked on as an attorney, and when I say critical to you as an attorney, personally and professionally?
So in terms of what shaped my understanding of justice and what, due process is and what it isn't, my second summer law school, I did the DA summer internship. And I remember, it wasn't one of my cases. I think it was my supervising attorney's case, or I was just in the courtroom observing. It was a probation violation, and it was a young Black man. And he actually, it's rare for defendants to take the stand, but he took the stand and he wanted to tell a story. He was violated for, possession of drugs. And he was like, those weren't my drugs. This police officer approached me and, pointed to the ground, said, "What's that?" I looked, didn't see anything. Then when I looked back up at him, he's holding a baggie of crack. And nobody believed the kid. And it was, okay, so you're telling me that this officer just approached you out the blue and put some drugs on? Is that what that's your testimony? And he was like, yeah. And, and it's a probation violation. At that time, you could just be violated coming in contact with the police. So it didn't matter whether his story was true or not. Then fast forward, I come out of law school, join the law offices of John Burris, and the first case I work on is the Riders case, all about officers planting evidence on probationers. And I think back to that kid, and it haunts me to this day sometimes, because he wasn't mad, he wasn't banging his fists, he was really resolved and resigned. He knew nobody there was going to believe his story. He took the stand and told his truth, and was, his probation was violated, and he had to go back to jail for 6 months. And it turned out, I don't know that he was a client, ultimately in the Riders lawsuit, but he wasn't lying, and nobody believed him. And he didn't even have the expectation that anybody would. Now, that Riders case, we tried to make it a class action lawsuit, but we had 100 plaintiffs as class members, all with the same story. It popped up on me. He had drugs in his hand, I had nothing. And before, that kid, before the Riders case, I wouldn't have even known that was true, that could happen. And I think about that kid, like I said, we represented over 100 clients. All of those people had probation violation hearings. That story was told at least 100 times in front of however many judges and prosecutors and public defenders. How did that happen? So that had a profound effect on me. One, it told me I had no business being a prosecutor. Like, I really needed to step back and understand and appreciate it is a job like no other. And it's an awesome responsibility. And then, zooming out, larger, being an officer of the court is an awesome responsibility. And and it led me, I did go on to be a prosecutor, but on the appellate level in the department, in the AG's office, the California Department of Justice, and then Fulton County DA, before returning to the law offices of John Burris, where I've been for over a decade now. But yeah, it was something else. And it, like I said, it haunts me to this day. And I think about them often.
That was a very powerful depiction. That's awesome. Thank you, Ayana. And to follow up on that, tell us about. Let me just back up. You've taken a case to the Supreme Court. You've gone to the Supreme Court in the Ninth Circuit. Please talk about those cases and talk about your experience.
So in Sheehan versus the City and County of San Francisco, our client was not suffered from schizoaffective disorder. She was off her meds, living in a group home for similarly mentally ill people, trying to support them, so they could live independently. She had an encounter with the police, and within, a couple of seconds of the police being on the scene, they shoot her 6 times, including once to the hip, and she survived. And, we brought Fourth Amendment, unreasonable force claims, but we also brought an Americans with Disabilities Act claim. And we were like, she is not well. And you were called there for the express purpose that she, for, helping to, protecting, the protecting, or actually probably the service part of your job. And there, and so in the Ninth Circuit, as a matter of first impression, the Ninth Circuit found that just garden variety arrest is a government service that falls under the ambit of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And when the police encounter a mentally ill person who they know or should know is mentally ill, they have to accommodate their mental illness. And Sheehan was the case that made that the law in the Ninth Circuit. And it was taken all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did not decide the Americans with, the ADA question, and instead took up the qualified immunity question on the Fourth Amendment, and just kind of further made qualified immunity difficult. The officers were let go of the case because they were found to have acted reasonably, and even if they were unreasonable, they were right to use the amount of force that they did, in the situation. But the city was still liable for the officers' actions under the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's one of my proudest moments. That is the law of the land, and it was because of sheer advocacy on our part. So tooting my own horn.
And when you're up there arguing your case before that Supreme Court, was there any one justice that stood out? What was your experience? Not everybody gets that experience, so.
So I didn't personally stand up and argue it. Once it got, I did the Ninth Circuit. Once it got to the Supreme Court, we brought in other counsel, and you need experienced counsel to get it over that finish line. Justice Scalia was actually our biggest proponent in that case. and the attorney for the city said her name, introduced herself, and then he stopped her. He said, "Let me stop you right there," and went in on, on the, some of the issues that he had with the case. And it was shocking. I was surprised. I was shocked, and never would have thought that Justice Scalia would be my biggest ally on the Supreme Court. And he was. He was awesome.